Welcome back to FTN, everybody. This is the SNT Series here, race number 2 in the chase for the championship. I'm your host, Alexander Valderas, ready to commit to another night of great racing. This is the SNT Grand National Series here on FTN. And you know what? Here on FTN, at what a better track than Nashville SuperSpeedway. We're here at another mile and a half, and as part from the name suggests, this track is not a super speedway. A mile and a half in the Music City. And tonight we're going to see that Music City here on and throughout. As the grid gets ready to roll off of pit road, let's take a look at your grid order and see who all is here. Back live after a short technical difficulty. And as we get ready for the start here for the SNT Series here at Nashville SuperSpeedway, bound and sure to be a great one. As the pace car comes in, Alec Daffin leads them to the green flag. Alec Daffin off to a phenomenal start here in Nashville. Vinny Tigner is in second, Matthew Weeks in third, Michael Stroll in fourth, Trey Holmes in fifth. That's your top five, and a lot of these guys filing out single file throughout a majority of the rest of the field. Now, the thing about Nashville is that a lot of these guys are going to have to be worried about tire conservation. We talk about it a lot with the Xfinity cars, but tire conservation is one of the most integral and important parts of really any racetrack, more or less so. But Nashville SuperSpeedway stands out above the rest. With its aggressive nature, one of the only concrete tracks in NASCAR besides Dover, and concrete is a much different surface to race on than asphalt, which is usually more so along the NASCAR schedule. Nashville SuperSpeedway brings a different feel below you in the car than a lot of the rest of the schedule does, and it's no different than a lot of others. But right now, Alec Daffin leads with Vinny Tigner, and these two have been strong here in the chase for the championship. Top three are going to be playoff drivers, and the next one, Jackson Van Pelt, he's in sixth, and he is your next closest playoff driver. Lap 4 out of 100 now, just having gone by, and this field really has started to single file out and started to log the laps. Just 5 laps in out of 100, and below your top 5 is Van Pelt, Henry Kalhoff, who's also in the hunt for the championship. He's in the playoffs. Matt Grab, Trey Holmes, Connor Isabel, and Kenneth Gorel, Kyle J. Jackson, Tyler Severt, and James Powden. Those are all in the hunt for the playoffs, and Chris Tripp is the last person who is 4 seconds back from the pack. He is in 16th, and he is our last person who is in the playoffs. Alright, to the championship so far, and things are heating up here in Nashville. Alex Daffin off to a good lead, but not so far over Vinny Tigner, as Vinny Tigner has been chopping down to a bit of a lower entry, and he's been wrapping around that yellow line, but if you'll notice, he has about the same exit as the 48. And I wonder if this different line that he's running is a different strategy to try and do something else that isn't what the 48 is doing. A lot of Cup teams say that, you want to do the opposite of what a lot of other Cup teams would do. So, Vinny Tigner could be following that mindset and doing the opposite of what he thinks Alex Daffin will do. This top 3 is on the charge and on the move. They are sliding up through the field. And a surprise man at third place, Matthew Weeks, has jumped up a couple spots, and now it's a playoff 1, 2, 3. So a lot of these guys up here in the top half of the pack ready and fighting for a championship by season's end. And we're coming closer to the end of the season, but we're still here in the midst of the playoffs. Lap 8 of 100, and Alex Daffin has led them all. Vinny Tigner up next, and Matthew Weeks your top 3. Tigner has started to close in on the 48, and has been more aggressive on his entry to the corner than most times in the past. So Tigner looking to get right up to the rear bumper of Daffin and his charge up to the lead. Daffin in the lead has led every lap of this race and was on pole. He's on pole alongside Vinny Tigner. Matthew Weeks just a couple spots back. And so far the average pace has not dropped off near but a 10th. And that's interesting for the Xfinity car. Usually about 10 laps or so into a run, we start seeing near a second off the pace. And so a lot of these guys still looking good on pace. Maybe some of them even going into the negatives. Alex Daffin on the average pace meter just plus 0.0. So he is still keeping neutral for the laps that he is running. And so far lap 11. And it's going to be an interesting tire strategy. I would say that if it's a full tank, these guys can make it about 50 laps or so, maybe more, on fuel. So we could see people try and do the one stop. However, on throttle time, towards the end of the run is really limited in this car. But at the beginning, there's a lot. It makes me wonder what kind of strategy that we'll see here tonight as we go on with the race. Lap 12 out of 110. And this pack of top 5 here at the front of the field has started to break away from the rest of the field, but Vinny Tigner still aggressively looking towards the back bumper of the 48, and he wants that spot. And he knows he wants that spot. That would be a spot that would help at playoff points, as these top 3 drivers are all in the playoffs. Next closest man in the playoffs that isn't in the top 3, Jackson Van Pelt. He's in 6th with Henry Kalhoff in 7th right behind him, both of those being playoff drivers. Alex Daffin has been one to run a little bit of a higher arc through both the corners, as a matter of fact, and right now it seems to be working. Has increased that gap a little bit over Tigner, so maybe Tigner falling back. Now runs to the high side, lets the 11, looks like he lets the 11 by, but he's going to be racing him, Matthew Weeks. Oh, maybe he does let him by. The 11 might be just faster than the 12 there as Tigner, and Matthew Weeks will go by the 12. Now the 11 hunting down the 48. Matthew Weeks in pursuit of Alex Daffin. Daffin has led every lap of this race so far. Lap 14 coming to 15 out of 100. And this top 5 group have pulled away, and so has Daffin. The gap now about 0.4 of a second over Matthew Weeks and Vinny Tigner. And then you've got a massive gap to Jackson Van Pelt. He's the guy leading that second pack back there. Been an incredible race so far for Alec Daffin. Been able to stay up there at the head of the field and be one to take charge of things. He has not let anyone else besides him lead a single lap of this race. So lap leads on the board, and if he goes more than 50 laps leading, and not an abundant amount of green light checkers, he will leave this race as the man who had led the most laps during the race. And I don't quite know if that is akin to a point in the standings, but you might as well try as what Matthew Weeks is doing, as he makes his charge now within the 0.2 of a second range to the 48. This gap has closed, and, you know, honestly, so has Tigner. Now, the total spread of the gap is about 3.5 tenths of a second, or sorry, 0.35 tenths of a second. And that gap has closed up to the 48 between Matthew Weeks and Alec Daffin now. Matthew Weeks will be the guy to try and dethrone the 48 as the only man who's led this race so far. Matthew Weeks would like the extra point on the board for leading a lap, and by the end of things, maybe switch around and he'll lead the most laps. As the top 5 continue to fight, here's a peek at the back half of the field. Contact made to the outside wall. I believe that's the 42. There in at the back half. But right now, looking at Matt Grab, he's there in the 53. On his charge up through the field, he's now made it all the way back up to 7th. And he has Henry Kalhoff right behind him. He passed Kalhoff just a few laps ago in his charge, passing another playoff driver. Matt Grab did not make the playoffs over Henry Kalhoff and Jackson Van Pelt. He's sandwiched in between two playoff drivers. Looking even further back, the situation and the separation is what continues to spread here, and Kenneth Gorel is further back here in the pack. He's the 57, so apologies, it wasn't the 42 who hit the wall, it was Kenneth who had hit the wall. He is in the playoffs. He sits 10th, and the math is correct, he is currently the 7th in the standings right now. As far as this race goes, he is 7th out of all the playoff drivers. Well, Alec Daffin continues to lead over Matthew Weeks, Vinny Tigner, and Michael Stroll as the gaps continue to increase. This front pack of 4 now is one we have dropping off. That's Rick Spencer Walt has continued to stay extremely close to one another. And it's been a really consistent race. This has been the closest that I think Matthew Weeks has been to Daffin now, almost dropping below the 1/10 of a second range. Does he do it? No, he doesn't. Got close, 0.107 on timing and scoring. That's about the closest that he got. But now the 48 is up and tight off the corner. This will give the run down the back straightaway to Matthew Weeks. Does he cut below? Yes, he does. Now to a 9.6, an 0.96. Was the last time I looked at the gap, and now he got a much better run through the center of the corner than Weeks did, and he will be as close as he's ever been now, knocking on the door of a 0.06 as far as gap goes, and Matthew Weeks is going to have to set up the pass on Alec Daffin. Daffin hits the wall as Weeks continues to make his charge. He wants to take the lead away. Alec Daffin now having to play defense here as he tries to hold off a fast-charging Matthew Weeks there in second. Vinny Tigner was the man in second. He had let by the 11 in his hopes that he would catch the leader. And so far he has. He's made his way up through the field and has started to catch our leader. Drop back now to about a 0.15, so dirty air might be a factor, but one thing really is showing that the Xfinity car doesn't really have dirty air. You know, every car has a little bit, but with the skinny and small rear spoilers and a lot of the stuff about this Xfinity car dirty air is put to a minimum, and really that's with the help of the smooth composite body and the low, thin rear spoiler. And right now, maybe a charge too early for Matthew Weeks. He now slows down to about 0.2 of a second. So he's now losing time on our leader, Alec Daffin. Lap 25 on to 26, a fourth of the way through this one here at Nashville SuperSpeedway. And right now, it's Alec Daffin who leads over the rest of the field. Matthew Weeks in charge. And he's getting close again. But he's been this close before. He's been this close before, so does he have enough to make the move? So people have been close to try and get to the rear end of Daffin, and it's been the closest with Matthew Weeks. Only one to get down to an 0.06 in terms of gap, so that's 0.06 of a second right behind the 48. And it is not gone lower from there. He did not have a chance to pass him. Some moves being made here in the back. Here is the 5 racing the 72. That's Trey Holmes versus Connor Isabel. As these two are going to go side by side, coming across the stripe. Timing and scoring says Trey Holmes, but he is still deathly side by side with the 72 of Isabel. So as he makes the move, Trey Holmes able to slot up right in front of the 72. And Connor Isabel is a playoff driver. So another spot lost by a playoff driver in this race. Mixed throughout the field. We have a field of about 16 cars. And a good chunk of them right now are playoff drivers, all battling it out. The chase for the championship. Well, the gap now continues to increase between Daffin and Weeks. Weeks been unable to catch him now, as even though he has gotten close, has not been close enough. Lap 30 out of 100. Alec Daffin leads here from Nashville SuperSpeedway. And with Alec Daffin leading, Matthew Weeks making a charge at him right from behind.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Boundless makes its presence felt. It will not be ignored. We're helping turn ideas into reality with a wealth of building products that take every architectural style to the next level. This is what it's like to imagine, build, and transform anything we want into exactly what we seek. This is what it means to be boundless.
Back live on FTN, you're watching the SNT Grand National Series here at Nashville SuperSpeedway. Well, we bring you back here live, and currently it's lap 37 out of 100, and nothing much has changed. Matthew Weeks still unable to pass Alec Daffin for the lead. Vinny Tigner and Michael Stroll make up the top four. Jackson Van Pelt and Spencer Walt in 6th. Henry Kalhoff in 7th, along with Trey Holmes, Matt Grab, and Connor Isabel rounds out your top 10. Lap 37 now coming to 38 out of 100, and as I predicted, these guys have not come close to pitting yet. But everything been sort of interesting right now, as no one has really decided to do anything just yet. Alec Daffin still leads over Matthew Weeks and Vinny Tigner. These three have been the closest as they've ever been. Here comes Trey Holmes on the move again, as he looks to pass the 31 of Rick Spencer Walt. And right now dives to the inside. He'll make the pass in the 31 now. He's set up behind the 63 of Greg Kalhoff. And once again, Trey Holmes playing spoiler now as he keeps passing playoff drivers. And now Michael Stroll is the only one that separates the top 5 from being completely playoff drivers. And it's what you call a dominant run here in Nashville. Alec Daffin has led every single lap of this race over Matthew Weeks and Vinny Tigner. This top 3 has not been any different than it was when the race started, minus the fact that Weeks overtook Tigner about lap 12. So now all Daffin needs to do is lead another 20 successful laps, and he will come out of this race with the most laps led no matter what, unless we have 4 green-white checkers. And when you talk about dominant runs, Nashville's a track that comes to mind, because Nashville is one of those where you have to remain consistent. Consistency is the biggest part in play here in Nashville. And being consistent with tire strategy, fuel, and as the run goes on, maintaining the same line throughout the entire run is key and crucial to being fast over the run. And that is exactly what Alec Daffin has been doing. He has been absolutely consistent and really not made any mistake besides hitting the wall about 20 laps ago, if you can believe it or not. And it looks to be no damage there on the right-hand side. You'd be right around the right rear of the 48, and there you really don't see any. So maybe it could have been netcode. That's just how close he was to the wall. Matthew Weeks has now slid back, but a battle here in the back half of the top 10. This is between the 53 of Matt Grab and the 31 of Rick Spencer Walt, as Walt continues to slide back through the field, but here he comes on his charge back, and I believe Matt Grab will take that position. This top 3 has been so immovable. They've been so dominant throughout this race that I don't know if anyone else really has an answer to them leading this much. It's been one thing to lead this many laps, and it's been another for the top 3 to have all been the same since lap 1 and have not changed it at all. Vinny Tigner and these guys have stayed this close the entire race. You know, that level of consistency might be unmatched by anyone else in the field. Tigner, even though he lost a spot to Weeks after he gave it up on lap 20, he's been consistently behind the 11 and has not moved anywhere else on track and been right behind the rear 11's back bumper this whole time, and they have been up throughout the field. and they've been the best of the field. You know, they've been in this top 3 for a majority of the day, if not all of it. And they've put pressure on Daffin, but he has not slipped. And he has not confided to any of the pressure that these two have given him. And they've gotten close. So far, Weeks is still the closest man to have gotten to the rear end of Daffin. He got within just about the .06 range. It was the closest that Daffin had got to the rear end of the 48, and it really hadn't been any closer than that. In fact, it had been further away, as when he did that lunge was the final lunge. He had stopped getting closer and had started falling back, and now Tigner is going to close on the back of the 11. Trey Holmes now catching up to the back half and the back end of the 63 of Greg Kalhoff. It's been quite a charge to the field. You know, Trey really didn't have that much to show for in qualifying, but he has gotten up all the way back to 7th and looks to be making some more moves. Connor Isabel side by side with Rick Spencer Walt. They're going to be side by side entering turn 1. Walt has that low lane. And right there, he did a phenomenal job of running right to the yellow line. He ran that apron so well, and that was truly one of the ways to get around Nashville and one of the better ways to try and make a pass, and unfortunately, unable to do so. Connor Isabel will make the pass and complete it, and he'll hold off for 31. Now the round goes to 92 as the 72 of Connor Isabel gets loose, but he is able to keep his position. But around the outside, Rick Spencer Walt goes to 92, and that was close. That was one of the closest calls I've seen here at Nashville. Got right up to the front bumper and almost cleared himself off the nose of the 31. But Rick Spencer Walt is now slowly starting to fall back. It's Alec Daffin over Matthew Weeks and Vinny Tigner. Michael Stroll up there as well. And these guys have been closer and closer ever since. But that 0.2 of a second gap has been the closest. I think Rick Spencer Walt is pitting. Yes, he is. Rick Spencer Walt, the first man to come down pit road. So brave in his efforts to go down pit road, and that's what's really surprising to me. As the rest of the field stays out, no one else has decided that they think it's the right time to come down pit road. They've not been anywhere close to deciding that at all. As so far, Rick Spencer Walt was the only person to come down pit road, and I believe Matt Grab as well. He may have been the first person to come down pit road because he just passed Rick Spencer Walt. And that would explain the time differential. Matt Grab is 25 seconds behind the next closest person. And yet somehow, he is still on the lead line. And with some of those guys pitting, I do wonder when these top 3 are going to pit, because it doesn't look like they've made any progress towards pit road thus far. And that only begs me the question of when they might come down pit road. Here's the battle between Trey Holmes and Henry Kalhoff. Henry using that top side lane, not much up there. He will get the run off the corner. He'll be side by side with the 5. And Holmes trying to make the pass made to get all the way back up to 6th. He'll be side by side with the 63 of Kalhoff, playing spoiler to all the people in the playoffs. He's not quite clear of the 63, and he's going to be side by side yet again. Trey has been on a charge to the field so far. And he's been really close to passing people, and man, that got really close between him and the 63 of Greg Kalhoff. That could have been worse. Apologies, Henry Kalhoff in the 63. The trio up front continue to lead. It has been no different from these guys being this far up through the field. And I truly am thinking, when are they going to come down pit road? It's over halfway in the race from lap 54 out of 100. And they haven't stopped for fuel and for tires yet. You gotta wonder what that might be. So far, their best times have been a 30.279. That's to Alec Daffin. A 30.235. That's to Weeks. And a 30.210. That's for Tigner. Their latest laps, 31.583, 31.637, and a 31.583. So fall off been more than aggressive. Vinny Tigner is going to be the bold one, and he is going to come down pit road. So Vinny Tigner, the first of the league trio to come down pit road. And we could see more happening next. Matthew Weeks decided and has been falling off more. And the leader pits. Alec Daffin is going to come down pit road, and he is the next comer down pit road alongside, I believe that's Van Pelt behind him. Yes, it is. So Alec Daffin and Van Pelt, the people to come down pit road next, and Matthew Weeks will lead a lap. Matthew Weeks been strong up front, and he's staying out. Matthew Weeks continuing to stay out, and this might be a problem, as his laps are 1.4 seconds slower than the best laps on some of the other people along the track. So going for the long run and planning out this race going green is a good strategy, but he will have the fresher tires for longer. But the problem is, does his competition build up a faster or a longer, bigger gap than what the new tires can provide for him later on in the run? A couple more playoff drivers down pit road, and that's going to be Kenneth Gorel and I believe Connor Israel. Yes, they both are down pit road. So the last lead lap driver is Kyle J. Jackson. He finds himself on pit road with Chris Tripp, I believe, being the one not on pit road. Vinny Tigner a lap down and right behind the 48 of Alec Daffin. He has gotten really, really close. This is as close as he's been so far, and I think he knows that because Matthew Weeks is still leading the field. Weeks has about an 0.8 of a second lead over Michael Stroll, and Michael Stroll is the man behind him, and both of these guys have not pit. The entirety of the top 8 have not come down pit road, and that is certainly interesting. Henry Kalhoff, the next taker, down pit road. So is Chris Tripp. Maybe Matthew Weeks will have to see this time by lap 60 out of 100. And in comes the 11. Here comes Weeks. He'll pit. And what an aggressive pit entrance. He'll lock up the tires. It'll make it through. Now let's look at Alec Daffin. He will get his lap back, but will he go around? And will he and Tigner pass the 11 while he's in pit road? And it should be a yes, as he's not even to his box yet. They have not started service on that race car. And Alec Daffin is through 3 and 4 right now.
Hello?
Hello.
Holy shit, I forgot I was in here. I'm supposed to be doing a broadcast. I'll be right back. I was doing a broadcast, and he said hi during it. We're not going to talk about it. Back live again from Nashville as we get ready to go on to the mid-60s here. It's lap 63 out of 100, and Michael Stroll is technically your leader as he comes down pit road. Him and James Bowden, Tyler Severett, and Roger Severett are the last people who have not come down pit road just yet. These guys are the ones to stay up front. And Roger Severett has now come down pit road, as well as Michael Stroll. So the only two who haven't, Tyler Severett and James Bowden. James Bowden now comes down pit road. Tyler Severett is still staying out on the racetrack. He is on lap 64 of his stint. Crazy to think about that. That 77 has not come down pit road at about 65 laps. Let's ride on board and see what it's like. Yep, he's still going strong. He's still going strong. I'm surprised he's made it this long. On now lap 66 of his stint, he has no one but Alec Daffin behind him, and he is not on the near enough the same zip code or strategy as anyone else. He is still out on track. I wonder how long he can last like this. Because with him being out front so long, I don't know how he's going to react. So we've been on board with Tyler Severett here for the last 3 laps, and it's been interesting to see. He is still out on the racetrack. He's going to reach lap no. I won't believe it if he's saved enough fuel to make it to the end. He's lifting. He lets Connor Isabel by. No, I don't believe it. There's no way he can make it on fuel. There is no possible way that the 77 can make it. And just as I thought, he's going to come down pit road. The 77 of Tyler Severett comes down pit road, and as we catch him entering, here is Alec Daffin with Vinny Tigner right behind. So Alec Daffin is most likely going to leave this race with the most laps led in a dominant run throughout the rest of the field. But I'll tell you what, Matthew Weeks is only 4.6 seconds behind, and he's just now making the pass on Matt Grab. So now he has clean air ahead of him in the charge to get closer to Tigner and Daffin. And it is about doing the calculations, about a 6 to 7 lap difference in tires for Matthew Weeks compared to Tigner and Daffin. And right now, those difference in tires proving to be something, as he's already gained 2/10 on the top 2. So we'll have to see where this goes. But I maybe wouldn't count out Matthew Weeks just yet. All Daffin and Tigner have to do is to just be easy on the tires and not lose too much as the rest of the race develops. Alec Daffin leading here strong with Vinny Tigner in tow. They're going to be the ones leading here in Nashville.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Back live here on FTN, lap 78 out of 100, and it's been the most dominant performance, I believe, in SNT history with Alec Daffin, and at least the most performance I've seen out of him in my couple weeks of covering SNT. He's coming up close to have been leading pretty much every lap that wasn't in pit cycle. And if it weren't for daring strategies through the rest of the field, Alec Daffin will have led every single lap of this race. And the next closest battle is between these two, Matthew Weeks and Vinny Tigger, the people who were supposed to bring the charge to Daffin. That charge is nowhere to be seen. Daffin has been so dominant out front this whole race, has not made a single mistake out front, and it's truly been an incredible run for that 48 machine to be that far up forward. And it truly is something else to watch him be this dominant. You know, he hasn't let anyone else lead that wasn't his doing. I mean, he hasn't made a mistake. He's gotten loose a couple times and he slid, but I think that's about it. Or maybe come close to the wall, and that could help in it. But it's just an amazing performance that he's put on here tonight in his charge. I mean, it's, you know, it doesn't get more dominant than that, than leading all the laps, getting the pole, the fastest lap, and winning. And right now, he's looking to, I think, not lead every lap, but he was on pole. He's looking to lead the most laps. And if he gets the fastest lap and wins, that's almost everything. Except for leading every lap. I believe going by best lap time, Alec Daffin may have it at a 30.178. That might be the fastest lap. Yes, it is. No one else has come close to that. So Alec Daffin not only has put on an incredible dominant performance here tonight, he's also had the fastest lap, and he's going to lead the most laps. And by no stretch of the imagination, unless the gods step in and intervene, does he not win this race. Here's a battle for 10th. It's Kyle J. Jackson and Kenneth Gorel, two playoff drivers battling it out for spots. And Kyle Jackson is the highest playoff driver that isn't the people in the top 4. So the top 4 are playoff drivers, and then it drops down all the way to 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and 16th with Henry Kelhoff 2 laps down. The progression through this field has been something else to behold, but progression doesn't come close to dominance now as Alec Daffin, who has a slightly worrying picture of a charging Matthew Weeks there just behind in his rearview mirror, but Matthew Weeks hasn't been gaining enough time, supposedly by the end, to make a pass on Alex Daffin. But there's something they always talk about, and that catching is one thing, but passing is another. And we've seen how difficult passing can be here in Nashville. And so, yeah, sure, Alex Daffin is slowly losing his lead away to Matthew Weeks, but even if Weeks catches him, he has to pass him. And when he was right behind him, he had done all that charging, gotten to the lowest gap between him and anyone else, a .06, and was not able to pass him. He was not able to get around the 48. So all the while Matthew Weeks is doing his best, it's going to be a challenge to try and pass. And again, that is one of the closer battles on track, as Weeks is pushing his hardest to catch up to the 48 of Alec Daffin, and it is working. He is now within 4/10, so caught up a great deal. And I believe by the time he gets to him, he'll have about 8 laps to try and make a move. But we saw what he could do sitting behind him for over the course of a 30-40 lap run, and he couldn't pass him. So what he didn't do in those 40 laps, he's going to have to find a way to get around in these last 8 that I'm predicting that he will have to try and beat the 48. Now within 0.3, now 0.27. So getting close again, and he is railing in and reeling in the number 48 as the last lap by Daffin was a 31.461. Last lap by Weeks 31.271. So getting up right to about where he was, where we were, quoting about 60 laps ago. So Weeks now has about 10 laps to see if he can pass the 48. And this has to be great defense here by Alec Daffin. He does not want at all to let the number 11 by. It is bid to go for the win. And here comes Matthew Weeks. With a peek down to the inside, he could make the move right now. using that inside lane. The 48 will be stuck up top with that run off the corner. They still stay side by side. Alec Daffin is still the leader. Can Alex Daffin hold on for another 9 laps to maintain his lead and come home with the win? Or will it be Matthew Weeks in the 11 to go off different pit strategies? They're going to be side by side, door banging and rubbing doors. Does Matthew Weeks have enough left in the tire to make a final charge against the number 48? One thing I will say is Alec Daffin has done a great job with pinching and keeping the 11 down to that yellow line and not letting him get a wide exit. That is the only way Alec Daffin can play this defense if he wants to keep his spot. But it's getting tougher and tougher. The 11 is inching ahead, but he's doing a good job by keeping right side by side as they're going to be neck and neck. And while the 11 leads, Alec Daffin, his defense is still not over. 7 laps to go. And Weeks will not clear the 48. He wants to get him clear and he wants to get this move made, but Daffin won't let him do it. The 11 will get clear now, but does Daffin try and take a charge and send it into 1? Daffin may have just lost the lead and lost the win. Does he have anything left for Weeks? Weeks is still over 1/10 of a second faster than Daffin, and this isn't looking good for the number 48, as he had been oh so dominant throughout practically the entire night, and it ends like this. Weeks able to take the position over Daffin after a long charge throughout this entire run. He had pit about 8 laps after or prior to the number 48 and the 12 of Vinny Tigner. And I wasn't thinking the overcut would work. And here I am wrong. Dead wrong. Matthew Weeks has put up an incredible drive to take over the lead from Alec Daffin, who had pretty much led every lap that wasn't a green flag pit stop cycle. And this race will have gone completely green. Not a caution in sight. And what an incredible drive we've seen between these top 3. Matthew Weeks, Alec Daffin, and Vinny Tigner. They have been the absolute class of the field here in Nashville, and no one else has been able to put a charge to these 3. In fact, the closest man to the top 3 that isn't one of these, Jackson Van Pelt, 7 seconds. 7 behind Vinny Tigner. With that being said, these 3 have been the absolute class of the field and dominant ones to watch here in Nashville, and it truly has been something else. 2 laps to go. Alec Daffin snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Will he have anything to say to Matthew Weeks, or will he have any final charge? If not, he has 1 more lap to go for the win, and Matthew Weeks has 1 more lap to drive around. 1 final time around Nashville, white flag in the air. Final lap between the men who have swapped the lead and led almost the entirety of this race. Alec Daffin is going to end up second, and Matthew Weeks, with the overcut no one thought possible, he is going to win in the playoffs. Off of turn number 4, Matthew Weeks comes home with the victory here in Nashville SuperSpeedway, a win in the second round of the playoffs. Wow. And I'd like to note, that race went completely green. Not a single caution in sight. And Matthew Weeks will do the unthinkable and do an 8-lap. Will do an 8-lap overcut and will be the winner. And Matthew Weeks will burn it down. Well, after a phenomenal race that went completely green here in Nashville, here are your results. Matthew Weeks wins over Alec Daffin, the man who had led almost every single lap that wasn't a green flag pit stop cycle, over Vinny Tigner, Jackson Van Pelt, Michael Stroll, Matt Grab, and Trey Holmes in the top 7. Then it's Kyle J. Jackson, Kenneth Gorel, and Connor Isabel, who rounds out your top 10. With the rest of the field combined, that's Chris Tripp and James Bowden in 11th and 12th, Tyler Severin and Roger Servant in 13th and 14th, Henry Kalhoff and Rick Spencer-Walt 13 laps down. After what was a phenomenal race here in Nashville SuperSpeedway in the heart of Music City, let's get interviews underway. We're going to talk with your race winner, Matthew Weeks. He's the man that pulled off what I didn't think was possible in one of the only overcuts that I had ever seen actually work in any way, shape, or form, and he somehow manages to do it. Matthew Weeks, you pull off an overcut that I didn't think was possible. You come home in victory lane here in a completely green race at Nashville SuperSpeedway. What are your thoughts in coming home in playoff victory lane?
Hyped. I mean, that's 2 in a row to start the playoffs, so that's a good way to kick it off and show these guys, I'm here to win this thing. I get, as far as saying to win it like that, to pass them with 6 laps ago and just steal it from them, like that's always the best way to win a race, is just to steal it from somebody. I'm sorry, Alec, but that was a good race. I enjoyed it.
Man, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat there just by passing Alec Daffin in the end, who had led the most laps out of anybody, and he will come up second, just about a second behind you, so only to rub salt in the wounds. How did you think that overcut was possible? Going more than 8 laps further than anyone else, I would have thought that the lap time difference would have been too much to overcome, but you managed to do it in the end.
I really don't know. I had a gut feeling at the start of the race I was going to pit at like 56, and then I went a little bit hard to start the race, and I got to Alec, and I was just stuck there. So I was going to early pit him, which I'm glad I didn't. I seen Vinny do that. So I decided once he pitted, I'm like, well, I'm just going to go to 60, and I'm going to see how it goes. And when I come out and they had like, I think a 7.5 second lead, something like that, I was kind of questioning it. But once the laps started ticking down and I was running like 0.3 faster some laps, I was like, oh, I'm going to have a shot. And then once I got within about 1.5 seconds, I'm like, oh, it's on now. You better run, Alec.
Well, he tried his best to run, but there was no room left to run. You were able to steal the lead with about 7 laps to go and had led all from that point on. Well, it's been an honor, and it's been great watching you here in Victory Lane. Is there anyone else you'd like to say, or anyone else you'd like to thank, or anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, shout out to JV Designs. My guy Justin, paints all my schemes. You're new in the booth, so shout out to you for covering tonight. I never heard you before, so thanks for coming in and doing that. And shout out to all the guys that run the league, man. This league is always fun. Green flag racing, I enjoy it. And everyone that watched, man, I hope we put on a good race, because that top 3 was insane, for real.
That top 3 battle was one of the most interesting things I have ever seen. You 3 did not step out of the top 3 the entire race. And let that sink in. No one else was in the top 3 besides you 3. And that's a stat to carry.
Oh, yeah, definitely, man.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Matthew Weeks, your second win in the playoffs, and congratulations, and thank you so much for your time.
All right, man. Thank you. You have a good one.
Matthew Weeks off the back of a great win. Let's get a word with a man who finishes just oh so close and was so close to coming home in victory lane. Alec Daffin, you come up just a second short and about 6 laps worth of defense short. Well, what was a dominant performance, and I didn't think anyone else would win, and I may have said the commentator's curse on you with about 10 laps to go, but, absolutely dominating performance here from Nashville. Run me through it.
Yeah, it's definitely on paper as dominant, man. Got the pole, and we were up there the whole way. I don't think we were outright fastest car, but we were fast, and on the clean air and all that. And I wanted to get the win in this Luke Combs car for a one-off, but yeah, had a good decent pit stop there, and then we're pulling away from Vinny, but then I saw Matthew coming, and yeah, he got around Vinny, got to me, and then he just rolled in. This car in the wind, baby, without warning, and we had a good battle there. But then he got around me and just started driving away. And at the end of the day, he got the best of me. I mean, passed my car, and all that's left to me is doing what I've done so far, just finishing second, I mean, whether it's Jordan or Matthew or whoever, just finish second almost every week. But, hey, I'd rather be second than be on the tow truck, So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's frustrating, but we'll take it.
Well, absolutely, and I think this is one of the most dominant performances I had seen out of you. I pointed out on the broadcast that you had led almost every single lap that wasn't a green flag pit road cycle. And so what does that mean to you, being able to lead all these laps but just come up short at the end?
I mean, at the end of the day, ultimately, doesn't matter, still finish second. But, I mean, it's definitely, on paper, it looks good. It's confidence boost. I mean, knowing that I'm capable of doing that. I mean, it's not the first time I've done that, but still, it's nice to be able to do that, get the pole win, be the dominant car. Obviously, want to finish off the end, but sometimes it's just not your day. I mean, in terms of the number of cars that beat me, it was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 too many.
Well, congratulations on most definitely leading the most laps here in Nashville, but you also come home in second, so thank you so much for your time. Before we move on to the next, is there anything else you'd like to say or anyone else you'd like to thank?
Thank you. I appreciate you jumping on doing the broadcast. And thanks, Vinny, for pulling the lead. Congrats to Matthew on the win. Appreciate him passing me cleanly there. Going to shout out to my boy Luke Combs for being on the car for this one race. This is actually a paint scheme I originally made back in 2021, but decided to bring it out of the woodshed for one race. Made a couple of minor changes to it, and we were ready to roll for that. So, yeah. So thanks to my Twitch viewers and my girlfriend Caitlin for watching. Love you, honey. And thanks to Team Chevy as well.
Well, congratulations on coming home second. Great way to kick off the first 2 races of the playoffs, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And that was the man who finishes second, the most dominant man we had seen on the track up until the last 5 laps or so, and that was Alec Daffin. Now going to get a word with the man who finished third is going to be Vinny Tigner in the 12 car. Vinny Tigner, you come home in third. You had been in the top 3 the entire race, and no one else had really, on paper, regardless of the green flag pit stops, had been in the top 3. You come home in third. Walk me through how you did it. Oh, he's not. Oh, I didn't. No, I didn't move him. Oh no. Vinny Tigner, you come home in third, and you were one of the only people to remain in the top 3 for over 90% of this race. Walk me through how you did it.
Yeah, I don't know. We were just all lined up right there, the top 3, and I just kind of just ran my line and, managed to just stay in tow with them, and that was pretty much that. I mean, I just felt confident in that and ran my line, and then that first or that pit stop there, that changed everything for me. That back half, I didn't drive nearly as good as that first half. So, but I knew Matthew had it in the bag. Once he ran it long and he started catching me there, I knew he had it. So let him go and let him battle out with Alec, and it still seemed to be a good fight up there and a good race overall.
Well, you come home in third, was 1 second, and I did point out on the broadcast that I think you did let him by to, let Weeks have a charge at the lead, and, you ended up playing it right. Weeks ended up winning over Daffin, and what boiled down to a good race and a good finish, and had Matthew Weeks had stolen victory from the jaws of defeat of Alec Daffin. But overall, I think that was a good race, and I didn't expect it to go all the way green.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't think it was going to go green either. Just from practice, everybody was loose and crashing. I should have known better, though, because last week at Texas, we kind of did the same thing. It was a crash fest in practice, and everybody got that out of the way, and we went green the whole way last week and did it again this week. So I'm super, super proud of these guys, and just to manage to keep doing that, that's awesome. You don't see that very often in a lot of leagues, so couldn't be happier than that.
You don't, and that's a phenomenal point. Well, before we end things off here, is there anything else you'd like to say or anyone else you'd like to thank?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for filling in for David. Thanks to all the guys tonight. Obviously, like I said before, just racing clean and not bringing out any yellows. And thanks to anybody who tuned in to watch tonight. Hopefully they enjoyed that one.
Well, I certainly enjoyed being up here in the booth, covering for David on his trip down to Houston. So, luckily, hopefully I'll be able to meet up with him in one of the days I don't have to cover. But thank you so much for your time, Vinny Tigner, and congratulations on third.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
The man who finished in that third position, Vinny Tigner, able to come home with a good third place, and that will help his playoff run. Well, it's been the end here for SNT on FTN, and it's been an absolutely phenomenal green flag race throughout the majority of this one here, folks. And it's been great here to be covering for my friend David Kreutz as we go off to end this one. I've been Alexander Balderas, producer and commentator here tonight from Nashville, and it's been an absolute wonder to be here for the SNT series. And if you're wondering, for all Fireball Talks NASCAR related content, make sure to scan the QR code on your screen right now and join our official Discord for race information and access to interviews and all in-house productions. This will give you access to not only what happens behind the scenes at FTN, but give you a chance to maybe run up through the ranks, and maybe you could be in here with the booth with me or producing your own show. Either way, scan the QR code on your screen now and join the FTN community. And in turn of which, joining another community, scan the QR code on your screen now if you want all the latest news and updates from eNASCAR today. The sign up is today. Then sign up today. This QR code on your screen right now, you could find yourself behind the wheels, behind one of the leagues that we commentate and broadcast throughout the week. And, it would be great to see you on track to go from a viewer to competitor and racer. And who knows, maybe you could come up in victory lane and you'd be getting interviewed by one of us. Well, it's been a phenomenal race here from Nashville. We saw a lot of great things, but now it's time to come to an end. Thank you so much for watching here on FTN. This was the SNT race, the second race in the playoffs here at Nashville SuperSpeedway. I hope every single one of you has a wonderful night as we get ready to go on throughout the rest of our weekend. Everybody be safe and enjoy as we sign off. Alexander Balderas, signing off.